Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Yes, today we're doing Pointing Out Problems of Five Nights at Freddy's, but this time doing the fourth game in the series, Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Of course, after people thought the original game series was the end of the trilogy, people thought the fourth game will not happen until July 23rd, 2015. Of course, long before I actually did, long before I did videos in the series, and of course, actually watched videos of this series. Anyways, before we begin, let's point out misconceptions theories of the previous three games. The first misconception we have to point out is Golden Freddy being controlled by two people. Being possessed by two souls. Here's how I can explain that's impossible. One, it cannot work because we always see Golden Freddy's spirit disappear from the Happy Days Stain minigame, and it's evidence that it's both being possessed by Cassie and the crying child that isn't provable. Second, the crying child dies at the end of the game, which will come back a little later once we do this part of the series. And of course, third of all, being of course Cassie and Golden Freddy being both the spirit that haunts Golden Freddy is impossible to prove. Why? Well, being that Golden, of course, it shows by what we see in the games that the animatronics can only be controlled by one soul. Fourth, and most importantly, the thing about Golden Freddy being controlled by two souls is this sounds a bit off. Why? Well, it's because Golden Freddy, of course, cannot be controlled by two people. Fifth, don't have the Fazbear Fright books be as evidence. Why? Well, because Golden Freddy, as I mentioned reasons why UCN is not canon video, Golden Freddy can no longer have revenge on William Afton. That's why they can't bother William Afton anymore, because according to some theories, he's now Glitch Trap. Which means William Afton cannot be bothered by Golden Freddy, as we see as I said before, seen in the FNAF 3 minigames of the Happy Days Stain minigames from FNAF 3, Golden Freddy soul has disappeared. So it's not evidence that prove that Golden Freddy is controlled by two people. So Golden Freddy is not controlled by two people as what you think. What made you think that was MatPat. Yep, the game theorists actually make you think that Golden Freddy is controlled by two people. I could explain that a little bit more of how it's impossible that Golden Freddy being controlled by two people is not so obvious. Another misconception is, of course, the endoskeleton we see in, of course, the second game belongs to Golden Freddy. Okay, there's two ways I can see it being possible. One, we already look down, if we already look down at his feet, Golden Freddy already has endoskeleton ankles under his feet. Which means, and this is by theory, 2, Golden Freddy cannot be Golden Freddy's endoskeleton because he's a spring lock animatronic. Yeah, a spring lock suit. Unlike all the others, that endoskeleton cannot fit him. He's a spring lock suit. Okay, so there's no spring locks in that endoskeleton. It's just an Easter egg. Yes, it's only an Easter egg. It's not going to be proven evidence that's the same endoskeleton that Golden Freddy has. He's a spring lock suit. Spring locks do not have endoskeletons like these. I believe it's an representation of what the animatronics used to have, change of the second and first game. I believe that, judging by what Golden Freddy is, spring lock, I believe his endoskeleton looks completely different than the others. And no, I don't want anyone in the comment section telling me that, of course, Nightmare would be the crying child. It's not possible, since he is the player for FNAF 4, not the animatronic you survive against. Anyways, another mixed exception. It's not by theory, but something else. People thinking that Toy Chica is the scariest animatronic of all time. Have you seen the other animatronics seen later on in the series? Like Spring Trap, Music Man, Mangle, Ennard. Yeah, have you seen those guys? Then you know that Toy Chica is not one of those characters. And no, fan art is looking up stuff does not help either. Anyways, back to the point. Anyways, the first problem I have with the thing is that people think that Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is the most confusing and frustrating game of all time. Not really. It doesn't confuse the lore. It actually goes a bit simple. The next problem is people think that Fredbear caused the Bitey 87. He did not. People still to this day try to believe that Fredbear caused the Bitey 87. The TV and Fredbear's friends, and of course the Easter egg you have in sister location when you click in 1983 shows it's a different bite. The Bitey 83, not 87. Another problem is that the Nightmare animatronics are caused by illusion disc. Well, illusion sound disc. If you watch my videos pointing out the problems by the Twisted Ones novel, you get that remember the illusion sound disc we see in that novel are not causing hallucinations of the animatronics or the players for that. Remember what I said? They only caused by the crying child's imagination. My theory is that the nightmares are actually caused by the bad experience he had before the game actually take place. I believe that Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy are representations of the older brother, aka Michael Afton, and his friends. I believe that Nightmare Fredbear is the representation, thanks to the bloody teeth, of the animatronic that took his life. And it's the last member in the blood, and it's the last memory of what he saw, with him having the bloody teeth. I believe that Nightmare actually represents what happened to him after he got bit by Fredbear. That's why we see him as a dark representation of Fredbear. I believe that Nightmare is actually the representation of the end of the game. I mean, people theorize he represents death. When I think about it, it is true. It continues with my theory that he represents the child, the child having his life taken away thanks to him being bitten by Fredbear. To me, it represents the end of the game. That's why you see him, of course, later on in the game. But what about Plushtrap? What about him? What does he represent in the game? Well, it could represent the future fate of William Afton. Oh, wait a minute. That'd be more obvious since, guess what? Plushtrap? How is that earthly not obvious? Plushtrap might have a vision of the future that later on in the timeline we see Springtrap. Yes, Springtrap. And guess what? His name sounds like Springtrap, but it has a plush version of it. To my theory, I believe Plushtrap is a representation of the future that happens later on in the timeline. Oh, don't worry. Sooner or later, I might make my own version of the timeline and fix some misconceptions I got from Five Nights at Freddy's. So, the Nightmare animatronics are actually representations of what happens in the series, or what happens in the game, if you don't include Plushtrap. But what about the nightmarish balloon boy? Well, I have a theory of what kind of thing he represents. You stick around for that. I can't do the Jackos or any of the Halloween update characters besides just Balloon Boy. The problem is that Halloween update characters is kind of confusing of whether or not they're canon. Some say they are canon, some say they aren't canon. Here's the explanation of the confusing part. The canon thing comes with a few explanations, well, 5 to at least. The first one is that they later on appear in later releases, such as using Help Wanted and Express and Delivery. Another explanation is that they have voice lines. Well, one of them, they have voice lines. A third explanation of whether or not they're canon is just like the custom night sister location character. They do, in fact, some of them are redone designs of previous done in animatronics. Another explanation is the Balloon Boy thing, thinking that he's the only one that was confirmed to be canon. And of course, it being from a canon source. Kind of like the sister location custom night characters. Oh. And there's only two things to make sure they're not canon. One, they only appear in the Halloween update of a canon source. And two, sometimes not all of them appear at once. So, which one is it? Are the Halloween update characters are canon or not canon? Well, let's see. Well, it's kind of confusing. Well, it depends on what you think. I'm just gonna leave it there. Depends on what you think. Anyways, and then... Okay. So the confusing part of the name of the crying child. Yes, that's another problem with that's at Freddy's. I'm gonna say this one more time. Even though he's not named Chris, even though he's confirmed to not be named Michael, but Help Wanted actually does succeed his name. And here's the thing. You can't always keep on not knowing what the name of your character character is. And here's another thing. Another confusing is that you can't still doing that still to this day. Well, we finally do actually hear what the crying child name actually is. It goes somewhere in Help Wanted, they actually do explain what the crying child's real name is. His real name is Norman, but people still to this day still won't figure out what his actual name is, even though it's right in the face in Help Wanted. It's just like how Nightmare Fredbear reappears in that game. Oh, speaking of, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie still to this day don't have their own game yet. A long time ago, when I revisited the series with Pizzeria Simulator, I thought the next game of the series, for a long time, we finally get, an actual game of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. But looks like we haven't we? I know Golden Freddy, it's interesting, but come on, have respect for a form of Golden Freddy. Fredbear. I mean, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. We really didn't see them in 3D forms. And no, his design in UCN does not count. That is a mirror reflection of Fredbear, that's not actual Fredbear. Talking about actual 3D versions of them. And no, of course, the teaser images we saw before of Spring Bonnie does not count either. That was just a scrap teaser. If you don't know, they have fan-made renderings of certain characters, including Spring Bonnie. No. We really didn't actually see what Fredbear and Spring Bonnie look like in 3D. The closest we would get was Park of Horrors, made by Golden Freddy Cinema. Fredbear and Spring Bonnie And that's just two random Springlock characters. And yes, I said there's only two Springlock animatronic, no Wikipedia, the Night 4 Springlock thing does not count. I mean, they appear in FNAF 4, but still to this day, they haven't had their own game yet. And I'm waiting for the perfect time to actually have them their own game. There's fan-made games of these guys. Come on, there's a series called Five Nights at Fredbear's Bring Them Eternal Rest. There's running in the 80s. There's Fredbear Entertainment Center. There's Fredbear's Fright. There's even, of course, one just called Five Nights at Fredbear's, but made in 2018. There's a ton of Fredbear's Family Diner game. I mean, I know Golden Freddy's cool, but can I at least have a version of Golden Freddy that has their own game? And of course, not forgetting, they don't need to stay in 8-bit form forever. They need to have 3D models. Really need a 3D model for these guys. The Springlock animatronics. They are part of FNAF 4. Fredbear is a FNAF 4 character. Why do you think there's a nightmare version of him? I mean, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. It would be nice, after so long, to finally have them get their own game. Please, Scott Cawthon, make an actual Fredbear and Family Diner game. Just do it. The only animatronics need to start surviving if you made that game like that, Scott. It start with Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Then have fixed versions of new Wizard animatronics. Call them prototype animatronics. Or maybe have a couple of characters we've seen in previous games as Easter eggs. Just stay in the background, not trying to attack you. Shadow Bonnie. Or maybe new characters we haven't seen before, like a Spring Foxy. Come on, how cool would it be to have a Spring Foxy? I mean, we already have one in the Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. You know, Fredbear's Family Diner one. Or maybe have Boom Boy and Puppet as extra enemies. That already happened in running in the 80s. Also, make sure their voice lines actually match what they are. Oh, and make sure they're not saying funny voice lines or not spoiling the lore. Make sure they're characters that are unclear what the player character is. That's what I like about Five Nights at Freddy's. Is that the animatronics don't know what the player is. If they want to talk to them, then maybe they should be that way. Make them, of course, here's a good example. Nightmare Puppet. Or Nightmarian. Make him Nightmare Puppet or Nightmarian. Make him say, "Who are you? You're not a person I recognize. You're not one of my friends." Or make him say, "I may not know who you are, but I still have a reason to hunt you down." Or how about, I don't know, a little bit actually saying, I may have started your cameras, but I did not feel you the main name, what's your name? Or him saying, well, it's trying to see how you must be hunted down, but who are you? What about Wizard Bonnie? It's saying what is this prison? Him saying, what is this guy? Who player is this? Or how about saying, I may not know who you are, but it looks like I'll have your face with mine. Or how about you won't get tired of my voice, will you? No, that's not possible. That's not scary. That's wants you to be annoyed. And of course, the worst of all, let's find a suit that's right for you. That does not sound like it could be Fredbear. It sounds like it could be Freddy Fazbear. And of course, the most frustrating one from UCN, anyways, in the previous games, they were all silent because they didn't know what player character you are. And the fourth game is a good example of that. So yeah, Scott Cawthon, make sure you have Fredbear and Spring Bonnie have their own game. Bad idea. It wouldn't me go in depth how bad done the voice lines are from that game. This watch by problems with UCN and how I wouldn't think it's canon. Anyways, I have to go now. I'm at the Comic Guy and this has been approved. Bye.